My name is Rachel. I'm 28 years old. I grew up in a nice house in Ohio with my parents, my older brother Mike, and my younger sister Jenny. People always said we looked like a perfect family. But no one saw what I felt inside. I didn't feel perfect. I didn't even feel seen. From a young age, I noticed something strange. My mom smiled at Jenny all the time. She brushed her hair, made her special snacks, and kissed her goodnight. My dad watched football with Mike. They laughed, played games, and went fishing together. But with me there was nothing. No games. No hugs. No special time. I was just there. When I was 8, I asked my mom, "Can I help you bake cookies?" She said, "Not now, Rachel. I'm busy." But 2 minutes later, Jenny was in the kitchen pouring sugar into a bowl, laughing with Mom. I stood in the doorway watching. That happened all the time. I thought maybe I had to be better. So I worked hard in school. I cleaned my room without being told. I helped wash the dishes. I thought maybe, just maybe, they would notice me then. But they didn't. When I got an A on a hard math test, I came home so proud. I showed my mom the paper. She looked at it for 1 second and said, "Good. Now go help your sister with her homework." That was it. No smile. No hug. Just a job to do. Mike got into trouble often. He once broke a window with his soccer ball. My dad just said, "Boys will be boys." But when I dropped a glass cup by accident, my mom shouted at me, "Be careful, Rachel. Why can't you think?" Jenny was their angel. Everyone said she was cute and sweet. She was always the star. On her birthday we had balloons, cakes, and music. On my birthday we had dinner. That was all. I remember once asking, "Can we have balloons for my birthday too?" My dad said, "You're too old for that now." I was 9. By the time I was 12, I stopped asking for things. I did my homework. I cleaned. I stayed out of trouble. But I stopped talking. No one was listening anyway. One evening I stayed late at school. We had a science fair. I forgot to call home. I thought they'd be worried. But when I walked into the house, nobody said a word. My mom didn't ask where I was. My dad was watching TV. Jenny was on her phone. Mike was eating chips. I stood there for a moment. Then I went to my room. That night I sat on the floor beside my bed. I looked at my school bag, still full of things from the science fair. I had won second place. I had a small silver ribbon. But I didn't show it to anyone. What was the point? I cried. Quiet tears. I didn't want them to hear. Not because I thought they would care, but because I didn't want to feel embarrassed. Even my sadness felt invisible. Sometimes I asked myself, what did I do wrong? I wasn't bad. I wasn't loud. I didn't break rules. But somehow I was still the one they didn't see. In high school it got worse. Jenny became popular. She joined dance. Mike got a car and lots of attention. I was just the quiet girl who stayed in her room. When I had a cold, no one brought me soup. When I was late coming home, no one called to check. Once I was sick for 3 days. I had a fever and didn't go to school. My mom didn't come in my room once. She just left a plate of food at the door. She didn't ask how I was feeling. Not even once. I started to believe that maybe I wasn't meant to be loved. Maybe some people just don't get that kind of life. I went to school, smiled at my friends, laughed at their jokes. But every day when I walked into my house, I felt like my whole body turned gray. Like the color left me. I tried to talk to my parents once. I was 17. I said, "Sometimes I feel like no one sees me." My mom said, "Don't be so dramatic." My dad added, "You always had food, clothes, and a roof. What else do you want?" I just stared at them. That was the end of the talk. After that, I stopped trying. I started dreaming of moving far away. A place where I could be someone. A place where I didn't have to fight to be noticed. I didn't know where and I didn't know how. But I knew I couldn't stay invisible forever. When I turned 18, I left home for college. It was not far, only 2 hours away, but it felt like a new world. I shared a room with a girl named Emma. She was funny, kind, and very talkative. She asked me questions. She listened when I answered. I wasn't used to that. The first night in our dorm, she said, "Tell me about your family." I paused. I didn't know what to say. "They're fine," I said. But that wasn't true. I just didn't want to explain everything. In the weeks that followed, Emma and I became good friends. We studied together, ate together, and talked late at night. One evening she looked at me and said, "Rachel, you don't talk about your parents much. Don't you miss them?" I smiled a little and shook my head. "No, I don't." At college, I started to feel more alive. I joined a book club. I took part in a campus art show. I even gave a speech in one of my classes. My professor said, "You have a strong voice, Rachel. You should use it more." That sentence stayed with me for weeks. I had a voice. Someone saw me. Sometimes I called home. My mom answered with her usual tone. "How are your classes?" she asked. I told her I was doing well. She said, "Good. Jenny got into the dance team finals." That was it. Every call ended with news about Mike or Jenny. Never about me. I stopped calling so often. They never noticed. During one school break, I went home for the weekend. I thought maybe things would feel different after time away. But when I walked in, it was the same. My mom was cooking, Jenny was watching TV, and Mike was out with friends. No one hugged me. No one said they missed me. That night at dinner, Jenny talked about her dance routine for 20 minutes. My dad asked Mike about his job. No one asked me anything. I looked around the table and felt small again. The next morning, I packed my bag and left early. "I have a study group," I lied. No one asked for details. Back at college, I wrote in my journal, "Why do I keep hoping they'll change? Why do I want their attention when they've never given it?" I stared at the words and felt something shift inside me. Maybe I didn't need their love anymore. Maybe I needed to love myself instead. Emma invited me to her home that Thanksgiving. "You'll love my mom," she said. "She always makes too much food." I was nervous. I didn't want to feel like a stranger in someone else's house. But her family was warm and full of life. Her mom hugged me. Her dad asked about my classes. Her little brother showed me his video games. At dinner, they passed me food and smiled. They included me in their stories. I wasn't invisible. When I went back to school, I cried alone in my room. Not because I was sad, but because I finally knew what it felt like to be seen. From then on, I visited Emma's family every holiday. Her mom even called me my second daughter. It felt strange at first. Then it felt right. I started working part-time in a library near campus. The manager, Ms. Hart, was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She always said, "Rachel, you're doing great work." Simple words, but they meant the world to me. One day I stayed after closing to help clean up. Miss Hart looked at me and said, "You're very responsible. Did your parents raise you that way?" I gave a soft laugh. "Not really," I said. "I kind of raised myself." She nodded slowly and said, "Well, you've done a good job." That night I walked home and thought about those words. I had done a good job. I wasn't perfect, but I was kind, strong, and smart. I had become someone, all by myself. As graduation came closer, I applied for jobs in different cities. I wanted to start fresh. I wanted to live in a place where no one remembered the quiet girl from Ohio. I wanted to build a new story, one where I was not invisible. After graduation, I moved to Chicago. I found a small apartment near the city center. It was just one room with a kitchen in the corner, but it was mine. For the first time, I felt free. I got a job at a small community center. I helped kids with homework after school. Some of them reminded me of myself, quiet, shy, and always watching. I smiled at them. I talked to them. I told them they were doing great. I said the words I had wanted to hear all my life. One girl, Leah, came to the center every day. She was 10 years old and never smiled. I asked her once, "What do you like to do?" She said, "Nothing. No one cares." My heart broke a little. I knelt down and said, "I care. And I think you're very special." She didn't answer, but the next day she smiled. Helping kids like Leah helped me too. Every time I said kind words to them, it healed a small part of me. I was giving what I never got: love, support, attention. And that made me feel stronger. Even so, some nights were hard. I sat in my apartment, looked at the ceiling, and felt empty again. I wanted to call my mom and tell her about my job, my life, my tiny wins. But I didn't. She never called first. Not once. Then one day I got a message from my sister Jenny. It said, "Hey Rachel. Mom wants to know if you're coming home for Thanksgiving." That was all. No, "How are you?" No, "We miss you." Just a question about plans. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, "No, I have plans. Tell Mom I hope she has a good holiday." I didn't wait for a reply. That Thanksgiving I stayed in Chicago. I made dinner for myself, just mashed potatoes and chicken. It wasn't much, but it was warm and I ate it while watching an old movie. I didn't feel lonely. I felt peaceful. A few days later I got another message, this time from my dad. He wrote, "Hope you're doing okay. We haven't heard from you in a while." I didn't know how to respond. Where was this concern before? I had spent years hoping for this kind of message. But now that I had it, it felt too late. I replied simply, "I'm fine, Dad. I've just been busy with work." He wrote back, "We're proud of you." That made me pause. I read it again. "We're proud of you." A simple sentence. but it hit something deep inside me. Why no? Why not all those years ago when I needed to hear it the most? I didn't reply. I closed my phone and went to bed. But I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about that message. Maybe they were trying now. Maybe they didn't know how before. But was that enough? Christmas came and I didn't go home. I spent it with Emma's family again. Her mom gave me socks and a scarf. Her dad told the same old jokes. I laughed. I felt safe. I felt seen. But in January something happened. My mom called me. She never calls. I stared at the screen for a long time before picking up. "Hi, Mom," I said. "Hi, Rachel," she said. Her voice sounded soft. Tired. There was a long pause. Then she said, "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't speak." She continued, "I know I wasn't the best mother to you. I was busy. I thought you were strong. I didn't realize you needed more." I felt tears rise in my eyes. "I don't know how to fix it," she said. "But I miss you. I'd like to try. If you let me." My heart didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to hang up. Another part wanted to say, "Why now?" But instead I just said, "Okay." That night I sat on my bed and cried. Not because I was sad, but because someone had finally said sorry. It didn't erase the past. It didn't fix everything, but it opened a door. And I was ready to see what was on the other side. After that call from my mom, we didn't talk every day, but we started to talk more often. Sometimes just for 5 minutes. Sometimes a little longer. He asked about my job. He asked how I was feeling. That was new. It wasn't perfect. It was slow. But something had changed. One weekend in March, I went home for a visit. It was the first time in over a year. I was nervous. When I opened the front door, my mom hugged me. She had never done that before. It was short and a little awkward. But it meant something. My dad looked up from the couch. "Hi, Rachel," he said. His voice was soft. Then he added, "It's really good to see you." That surprised me. I smiled. Jenny came into the room. She looked happy to see me. "You look different," she said. "You look strong." That was the first kind thing she had ever said to me. That weekend we sat down together for dinner. All 5 of us. My mom asked about my job at the center. I told them a little about the kids. About Leah. About how I helped her with reading. My dad listened. Really listened. He said, "You're doing something good. You're helping people." And then my mom said something I'll never forget. "I think we didn't understand how special you were," she said. "You didn't ask for much. You were quiet. We thought you were okay. But you needed love too. And I'm sorry we didn't see that before." I looked at her. Her eyes were wet. My own eyes filled with tears. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. That night I lay in my old bed. The same room where I used to cry alone. But this time it felt different. Felt like maybe something new could grow. Jenny came into the room. She looked happy to see me. "You look different," she said. "You look strong." That was the first kind thing she had ever said to me. That weekend we sat down together for dinner. All 5 of us. My mom asked about my job at the center. I told them a little about the kids. About Leah. about how I helped her with reading. My dad listened, really listened. He said, "You're doing something good. You're helping people." And then my mom said something I'll never forget. "I think we didn't understand how special you were," she said. "You didn't ask for much. You were quiet. We thought you were okay. But you needed love too. And I'm sorry we didn't see that before." Back in Chicago, I kept working at the center. I started taking evening classes in counseling. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who felt invisible in their own homes. I wanted to be the person I never had. One afternoon, Leah brought me a card she made. It had hearts on it and said, "Thank you for seeing me." I held that card for a long time. That one sentence said everything I had needed to hear my whole life. Later that year, I invited my parents to visit Chicago. They came. My mom brought me cookies. My dad helped fix my sink. We went to the park. We laughed a little. It wasn't perfect. There were still quiet moments. Still awkward silences. But there was also effort. There was care. There was a second chance. Sometimes people don't change overnight. Sometimes they don't know the damage they caused until much later. But sometimes if we are strong enough to speak up, something begins to shift. I used to think I didn't exist in my family. But the truth is I existed all along. I just needed to find my own light. And once I did, they finally saw it too. Now I live my life differently. I surround myself with people who see me, hear me, and care about me. I no longer chase love. I give it. I build it. I create it. And when I look in the mirror, I don't see that quiet girl in the corner anymore. I see Rachel. I see someone strong. I see someone who exists. Months passed after my parents visited me in Chicago. Things continued slowly, but something had changed. They called me now not just to ask questions, but to share little things. A new recipe Mom tried, a story Dad heard on the news, something funny Jenny said. They were learning how to talk to me. And I was learning how to let them. One Sunday morning, I got a message from my brother Mike. He had never really messaged me before. It said, "Hey, do you remember that time we went to the lake and you fell in?" I laughed. I remembered that day well. I had slipped and everyone laughed except Mike. He had pulled me out and handed me his dry shirt. I replied, "Yeah, that was freezing." He sent back, "I was a jerk to you a lot. Sorry about that." It was a simple message, but it hit me hard. Maybe we all grow up not knowing what others feel. Maybe now, as adults, we were finally learning. I started visiting home more often. Just a few weekends here and there. One visit, I brought Leah's card with me. My mom saw it and asked what it was. I told her the story, how Leah had said, "Thank you for seeing me." My mom looked at the card for a long time. Then she handed it back and said, "I'm glad someone saw you. I wish I had sooner." That moment stayed with me. It didn't erase the years I spent feeling alone. But it gave those years a kind of ending. I didn't need them to fix the past. I just needed them to admit it. At the community center, I began leading a group for girls who felt ignored. We met every Wednesday afternoon. Some of the girls cried when they talked. Some didn't talk at all. I gave them space and I gave them time. I never pushed. One girl, Natalie, reminded me of myself. She said very little at first. Then one day she stayed behind after group and asked, "How did you stop feeling invisible?" I thought for a moment and said, "I stopped waiting for others to see me. I looked at myself first. I told myself I mattered even if no one else did." She looked at me quietly. Then she smiled just a little. That smile meant everything. On my 29th birthday, Emma threw me a small party. Her parents came and even Leah's mom came with cupcakes. My apartment was full of laughter and warm voices. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat on my couch and looked around. There were no decorations from my family, no presents. But there were texts, real messages this time. From Mom. From Dad. From Mike. Even from Jenny. "Happy birthday, Rachel. We're proud of you. We miss you. Can't wait to see you soon. You're the strongest one of all of us." I didn't cry that night. I smiled. Because this time I didn't feel forgotten. I didn't feel like a shadow. I felt loved. And more than that, I felt like I finally belonged. Not just in my family but in the world I built for myself. A world where I wasn't invisible anymore.